Oi, 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 oi. Okay, so, where have I been? There's this thing called summer school. It's for the dumb kids. Okay, no, I didn't fail anything, but I have a lot of courses to cover for my final year. Not important, but also I am a lazy nigga. Like, I'll admit that. I'll stand on a pedestal and say I'm a dirty, no wiping, crusty ass, lazy nigga. I'll admit that. I'm trying to work on it. I'm trying to get better at it. But that's also beside the point. So during Paris Fashion Week, Louis Vuitton presented its Spring-Summer 2020 collection by mainstream designer Virgil Abloh. This year marks his second collection with Louis Vuitton since appointed as creative director for menswear since 2018. The collection, in my opinion, was well executed, better than I expected, to be very honest. The garments were for the most part simple, with inclusions of floral accessories and floral patterns added to predominantly monochromatic outfits. One of the major standouts for me was the choice of setting and what was done with said setting. The painted benches, Place Dauphine location, trinkets such as ashtrays, cards, bubbles, and balloons all had a major contribution to the playful childlike aura of this collection. Paired with the music by the Heritage Orchestra, the collection was honestly enjoyable to watch. Like, the aesthetic of the video itself was really appealing. Despite my pleasant enjoyment, the question of why Virgil continued to bombard my thoughts. And when I say why Virgil, I mean why was Virgil Abloh appointed as the creative director of menswear for Louis Vuitton? I tried to find some answers. In other words, I made shit up in my head and created bold accusations and assumptions. So for today, I'll be Sherlock Knight. The reason Virgil's appointment intrigued me is because, you need to understand this. Louis Vuitton is one of the oldest luxe fashion brands of 165 years. During its time, LV has made its name through primarily bags and luggages, but also branched off to garments and perfume and accessories. Basically, Louis Vuitton has built an empire around the high class and the 1% of individuals that can actually afford their garments. Easy to say that the level of exclusivity around Louis Vuitton was at a high S-class level. Like, anyone wasn't allowed to purchase and even afford Louis Vuitton garments or items. And it's easy to say that they have intentionally built this culture of exclusivity to give their customers a sense of elitism, I guess. At one point in time, I'm sure that the only thing more exclusive than Louis Vuitton garments was probably freedom. Like your ancestors was free, like free, like no indented, like free. Oh shit, okay. Mainly to say, Louis Vuitton went from unattainable levels of accessibility to now still maintaining some form of this exclusivity, but within the most inclusive culture right now, which is street fashion. So you understand my confusion. So this brings me back to my question of why Virgil? Like, why Virgil Abloh of all designers? An architect, a major, a DJ, and the owner and creative designer of very successful, very mainstream street fashion brand Off-White. Before looking forward, I believe we could see fragments of things to come from LV by the moves made by the former creative director Kim Jones. For those unaware of who Kim Jones is, he is, yes, a he firstly, and he is a British menswear designer that worked with many S-class fashion brands such as Dunhill, Alexander McQueen, Burberry, Hugo Boss, Topman, Uniqlo, Iceberg, etc., and Louis Vuitton. Now, why is this necessarily important? Well, because Kim Jones solidified the influence street fashion has had on luxe brands through his streetwear-induced take on garments, and above all else, the collaboration that he made with Supreme. At the time of the collaboration, it was like taking the top luxurious brand and taking the top street brand and then making Gogeta, which was the collaboration itself. And if you don't get that reference, well then you are uncultured, you are disgusting, and you are a piece of shit. Now, post his departure from Louis Vuitton, acknowledging the fact that LV has all intent to head towards the direction further endowed in street fashion, the perfect nominee for this position would actually be Virgil Abloh, someone very in touch and ingrained into mainstream street fashion, with friends such as Kanye West and Jerry Lorenzo, and someone with many relationships with rappers and entertainers, and whose brand is already on the forefront of American mainstream fashion with a massive, thick Nike collaboration. The marriage is perfect if you look at it from that perspective. Another undeniable fact is the power street fashion and different factions of street fashion, different parts of the world, has garnered. Mainly because the whole idea around street fashion is inclusivity of persons within a subculture, providing a safe haven, and most importantly, a form of identity. And though it seems simple and one-dimensional from an external perspective, as well as often mistaken as materialistic, these sub-communities present themselves as powerful tools of influence for the current generation and future generations to come. Perfect examples of the influence created by these sub-communities is the influence cultivated by ASAP Mob and Odd Future, for example. These two separate factions from separate areas of America have their own individual style associated with them, and I believe that brands such as Louis Vuitton began acknowledging and desired the influence and power that these sub-communities within fashion held. Following up my previous point, where there is a large committed group of persons under specific influence, there will always be money that could be made, and this idea is heightened within fashion because there's already a large amount of money being spent, and the whole idea within the community, while it is self-expression and the psychology and sociology behind fashion, it is also, consumerism. And that right there is where big corporations such as Louis Vuitton come into the fold. Their profit margin since the integration has grown significantly, and it makes sense. For example, look at it from this angle. It's like, targeting a market of, let's say, 100,000 persons selling an item for 2,000 US, when you could also target a market of 2 million persons and it is still growing and sell an item for 500 US. Obviously, those, I'm just giving an example, but you get the point, as though even though the price may be cheaper on certain garments, once it is appealing to a wider market or a wider audience, you will generate a larger profit. And who is already the face that will attract all these persons towards Louis Vuitton to buy a jersey for 500 US or 600 US? Well, Virgil Abloh. The mold is actually ingenious if you think about it. According to Bain & Company, high-end streetwear had boosted global sales of luxe goods by 5%, which equates to about, some slight $309 billion. And that was only 2017, so imagine for 2018 or 2019 or 2020. And this primarily is due to the fact of the influx of young consumers. And as you could guess, that was the same year that Louis Vuitton collaborated with Supreme in 2017. I told you, I'm an investigator. I am Jessica Jones and I am figuring this out. But no mold is perfect, and everything comes with its disadvantages and sacrifices that have to be made. With Louis Vuitton and these high fashion brands, many of the, you could call them fashion heads, the higher end consumers and the persons that were there before the influx of street fashion, they judge these brands and claim that this is somewhat of a low point or the end for high fashion brands, as they incorporate these urban and less intricate and less introspective ideas within their fold. But when you make $309 billion extra in 1 year, you don't really care about what one blogger or two bloggers or like 500 bloggers have to say, because it's $309 billion, you know what I mean? So I believe that this trend is here to stay. Honestly, the inclusion of Virgil Abloh, in my opinion, all comes down to dollars and cents. Honestly, I feel as if Once the profits of a business is doing incredibly well, you've successfully answered the question as to why they're doing what exactly they're doing. Because it always comes down to profits at the end of the day, and you could believe what you want about morals and ethics. Those standards usually aren't held by brands as massive as Louis Vuitton, and anything done by brands of this caliber is usually done well calculated towards a profit or towards public relations, which creates a positive, favorable perception of them towards the wider public, increasing their appeal, and in result does what? Yeah, increase profits. Though I was a bit all over the place and I went on many tangents, I hope you understood the point I was trying to make about why Virgil Abloh, in my opinion, was picked to be the head of menswear fashion at Louis Vuitton. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and that was kind of about it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure and like and subscribe, and if you dislike the video, then make sure and dislike and subscribe. Yeah, you still have to subscribe, nigga. And yeah, that's kind of about it. Thank you for watching, and yeah.